Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Draft Geek Prospect Review. I'm Brian Johannes, and today we're going to look at the Week 6 college football season, kind of taking a look at how the top prospects did in this past weekend's games, this past Saturday's games. So let's go ahead and get started. Indiana versus Ohio State. Ohio State cruising this game 49-26. Dwayne Haskins coming off of kind of an up and down game against Penn State. I dove into that tape. Um, some inconsistencies. It wasn't one of his best games. He really rebounded here, throwing for 455 yards, 6 touchdowns, completing 75% of his passes. The big thing about him is he was showing off his arm strength, his ball placement, dropping balls in deep to receivers, spreading the ball around. I know it's Indiana, but it was a totally different game for him, so it was nice to see him get on track. His main target was Paris Campbell. Campbell had 9 catches for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. The speedster was able to get the ball out in space and really use that explosive speed to make some big plays, get downfield. For Indiana, a player to kind of keep an eye on is Nick Westbrook. He had 5 catches for 109 yards and a touchdown. This is a good game for him, playing against a couple of good cornerbacks, Damon Arnett and Kendall Sheffield. Nick Westbrook is a 6'3", 215-pound receiver, contested catch type guy. He likes to go up and win those jump balls. He missed all of last season. Ironically, he got injured in that first game of last year against Ohio State, covering a kick, and so he's back this year and had a big game here. So that's a player to kind of keep an eye on if he does declare, since he redshirted last year. All right, moving on. We have one of the big games of the day. We saw Florida upset LSU 27-19. LSU just really struggled against a good Florida defense. Nick Brossette was able to get 95 yards off of 15 carries and 2 touchdowns, averaging 6.3 yards per game. But the real big story here was Florida defensive end Jachai Polite. He had 6 tackles, 2 sacks. He had a quarterback hurry and a forced fumble. He was a man possessed, and he's been really a name that's jumped off and into the NFL draft discussion. A lot of people didn't really know much about him coming into this year, and he's just been unblockable, showing speed, showing power, bend off the edge. So definitely a player to really kind of keep an eye on. He could, just shooting up draft boards can possibly be the second pass rusher off the board this year. One of the other big matchups this weekend was the Red River Shootout that saw Texas knock off Oklahoma 48-45. This, as it indicates, was going to be a shootout in this game. Marquise Brown, the headliner here, my number 1 rated receiver at this point. He had 9 catches for 131 yards, 2 touchdowns. He could just continue to show his deep speed, his ability to make plays down the field. He's so much more than just a deep route runner, a deep threat. He can cut inside. He can create separation. But he just was able to when they needed him to make a big play, he is able to do that. Opposite him was Texas' top receiver, Colin Johnson. He's a different type of guy. He's 6'6". He's that contested catcher. He had 6 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. He had a big touchdown early in that game, just showing his size and his ability to go up and high point that ball to make the catch. Kind of on the down note, we had Auburn was one of those teams that was looking to be a national title contender, and they made a run for it last year. They had a lot of their team back. Jared Stidham was in yet a second year in the system. They traveled to Mississippi State and really got shut out. They lost 23-9. Stidham has just really struggled this year. He was only completed 50% of his passes for 214 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. At least that was good. But he just hasn't been the same this year. I had high hopes for him. I liked his potential watching him this summer. It's just been a struggle so far this year, and his draft stock is starting to really slide. It's not that he was this big time prospect, but I thought he could be a 3rd round pick, a guy that you could draft, in those middle rounds, develop. But it's looking at this point, he's a late round flyer. Opposite end of that was West Virginia. They won 38-22 over Kansas. Will Grier continues to dazzle and for some reason isn't getting a lot of the national hype, even though they are a top 10 ranked team now. Grier threw for 332 yards, completing 68% of his passes for 4 touchdowns. He did have 3 interceptions. That's not great, but they did get the win. Just once again, just making throw after throw, putting the ball where it needs to be. He had a pass where he rolled out to his left, and was able to make an easy completion. He just looks like, in my opinion, he's the second best quarterback in this class. He doesn't have the top end arm talent that you see like a Justin Herbert have, or even a Dwayne Haskins, but his ball placement is at another level. So tremendous game for him. One other player to kind of keep an eye on was Kansas's Daniel Wise, a defensive tackle for them. He did have 2 sacks in this game. You're not going to hear a whole lot of him because he's from Kansas. But much like last year with their defensive end, Dorrance Armstrong, a guy that could probably go in the middle of the NFL draft and just be providing an interior pass rusher. And you can never have too many interior pass rushers on your team. Michigan's a team that's kind of on the rise. They lost week 1 to Notre Dame, and now Notre Dame's a top 5 ranked team looking to make a playoff push. And they ended up winning 45-21 over Maryland. Shea Patterson, I went on a limb and had him my number 1 rated quarterback coming into this year. The more I watched him, the more I've kind of slid down on him. But he had a nice game here, 19 for 27 for 282 yards. He had interception, but 3 touchdowns, completed 70% of those passes. Just once again, he's shown the ability just to make timely throws. They've kind of utilized his athleticism a little bit more, and I think that's really gotten him into a rhythm. So I'm not ready to kind of vault him back up there, but he's a guy. I think his stock is starting to rebound on the back up on the upswing. The game is NC State won 28-23 over Boston College, and the story of this game was Ryan Finley, another quarterback that is really kind of staking his claim to be one of the top guys in this class. He completed 74% of his passes for 308 yards, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. A lot similar to Will Grier. He doesn't have the elite arm velocity. He's not going to drive the ball and make the Justin Herbert type throws, but he's got that ability to just kind of put the ball and distribute it to the receivers. And a big one of that was Kelvin Harmon, their top rated receiver, the junior. He had 9 catches for 128 yards and a touchdown. His touchdown pass, Finley just put it right where it needed to be. Dropped it over the defender, put it towards the sideline, allowed Harmon to catch the ball, kind of shield himself from the contact and score that touchdown. And that's the type of quarterback Finley is. Very similar to a Will Grier, but I think Grier's even better. Got a little bit more arm talent, but don't count out Ryan Finley. I mean, he's not going to be the next Brett Favre or Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers, but he's a guy I think that you can kind of draft in those middle rounds. And at worst, I think he's going to be a high-end backup. All right, last game I want to talk about is Florida Atlantic. They hosted Old Dominion. They won 52-33. Devin Singletary is the player that we're talking about here, the running back for them. He had 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just kind of did what he wanted in this game, and it was a one-man show for parts of it, eluding defenders, using his speed, his quickness, and then that burst, not only to make a move and make a defender miss, but then burst and get back up to top speed. We hear so much, this running back class doesn't get the hype that it did last year. There's a lot of good running backs in this class. You got David Montgomery for Iowa State, Justice Hill from Oklahoma State. Don't rule out Devin Singletary, a guy that could easily go round 2 of this draft, maybe in that 3rd round, and be a guy that can come in and contribute right away to an NFL team. Well, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and subscribe here on YouTube. If you're listening to this in the podcast form, subscribe there, rate and review. Make sure you're hitting up NFLDraftGeek.com for all your draft needs. Follow me on Twitter at draft_Brian and Instagram. Thanks for watching. Until next time.